conversation with you talking for development. I've got a guest, a wonderful guest. The last time he was on the show, we had a great time. And we're going to have a great time again talking for development. I'm talking about Joe Johnson, who is the Commissioner for Information, Rivers State. Welcome on the show. Welcome. Good to have you.
Good evening, listeners. Good evening, Rivers people. Good evening, Port Harcourt.
All right, so if you're listening right now, we're talking about the plans of the River State government for 2024. We're talking about the budget. This is the period where, the government would start, any government will start to plan for 2024. And I do hear, Bed told me that the budget will be transmitted to the legislative arm by next week. The information minister, commissioner, I beg your pardon, will give us all of that details on the show. But once again, welcome. So, can we ask the first question? Is the budget for 2024 ready? Can you hear me?
Well, if you have been following the trend of events, you would have heard a radio announcement inviting MDAs and the various ministries to a budget session on Monday.
Okay.
That program is intended to look at what has been done and then get some form of knowledge from the budget office. So I'll assume that after that, then the budget defense and all the rest of the processes will follow.
Okay, so since we're going to be transmitting, or rather there will be a plenary session on Monday where all of that will be discussed with MDAs and all of that. What areas is the River State, or what areas are being focused on by the River State government? Let's put it that way.
Well, if you have seen the blueprints of this government, His Excellency Sir Siminala Ifubara has a 37-page blueprint.
Okay.
And there is what we call the priority areas. The priority areas of this regime, not limited to these ones,
okay,
are agric, economic growth and industrialization, infrastructure, education, healthcare and security.
Okay. Yeah.
On the economic growth, the intent of this regime is to develop and implement a 10-year River State reindustrialization master plan to provide the roadmap for achieving the industrial transformation of the state. You recall that places like Transamadi housed blue chip companies like Michelin, Dunlop, and quite a number of other, foreign-owned companies, including the companies owned by River State government, West African Glass Industry. There was a revoke, and there were quite a number of those blue chip companies. Those companies, the premises are still there, lying moribund, and only be secured by some guards, Nothing economically is happening there. So we intend to get back or jack back to life by seeing how they can be reindustrialized.
Now,
Transamadi will regain its mojo. That's what this government is looking at.
Okay.
That is in the area of reindustrialization. And then on agriculture, we intend to release state-owned agricultural lands and investments to serious investors for commercial and mechanized agriculture. We intend to support investment in commercial oil palm production and other cash crops. We will encourage local government councils to support local farmers to improve production and access to fertilizers, processing facilities, and markets. That's on infrastructure. Well, His Excellency, the past governor, had done so much in the area of road infrastructure. But we have come with the icing of the cake by bringing in the 51.1 kilometer ring road, which will touch 6 local governments. That project is already a work in progress. The amount of money was made open. About 77% of the total sum had been advanced to the contractor. As we speak, work is progressing. And then on education, we are ensuring that they will continue to improve budgetary provisions for the public education sector to meet the funding requirements for access quality education, equity and infrastructure maintenance and upgrade. We will ensure that every child has access to basic education across the state by tackling the out-of-school and dropout syndrome in our communities.
Okay.
Then there will be priority on the teaching and study of English language, which is what we call STEM. STEM is science, technical, engineering, and mathematics subjects in the school system. Okay? Then, aside from all the academic things associated with it, we will establish the Rivers State Technical and Vocational Education Board to drive the advancement of technical and vocational education and training in the state. On healthcare, you're already aware of the various healthcare facilities, both at tertiary and primary sectors. You know, we intend to rehabilitate the dilapidated primary and secondary healthcare centers and hospitals across the state. We will also increase funding for the River State Teaching Hospital to become one of the best tertiary hospitals in the country. On security, that's where my heart goes for the people of Ahoda East and West. But I can tell you, without missing words, that His Excellency, during his visit to Mr. President, has a special force that His Excellency, the President, has approved to take care of the first living crisis that has taken life in that region. Ahoda East and West is one of the most viable regions, particularly that you have a large presence of oil and gas. So it's not a zone for anybody to toy with. So that area is getting attention, and we are doing everything to get the support of government to be able to tackle it. The first assignment the current Commissioner of Police did was to visit that place.
All right. And
I'm sure that I also have been able to send messages across the spines of who are disturbing the peaceful coexistence of people in that region. So these are the areas that were campaigned with, captured in the blueprints. But on our own as a government, the first ESCO Executive Council meeting I attended, we had 4 bills before the council, which have been prepared to be sent to the assembly. One is the RIPA, River State Investment Promotion Agency. As the name connotes, it is intended to showcase the investment opportunities in River State. I was in Abuja on Monday. I was in a program, a summit organized by diasporans, Nigerians who are living in the diaspora. And they came with quite a number of very good investors. By the time we presented our investment roadmap, investors were head over heels. But we thought that the best to do also was to prepare our minds so that the easy to do business will be such that it will make it as convenient as possible. Then there is also another bill which is called New Town Development Authority Bill. This bill is going to the one city notion about River State. Everybody believes that River State is made up of only Port Harcourt. But this bill the Act on the Electrification, 2023 Electrification Act, which the Constitution has liberalized the process of states to willy-nilly establish or provide electricity. We have already approved a bill that is to deal with that, and it's called River State Electricity Bill. And then the big one is on the youth. The government has also set aside the sum of 4 billion naira for entrepreneurship. This bill is intended to deal with MSMEs, the medium, micro, small, medium enterprises, what you call MSMEs, to be able to deal with it so that people can access, youth can access it, and they can begin to practice their trade. Assuming you're into barbing salon, you could find electricity regulated and controlled and made available for your business to thrive. These are the directions this government intends to go. Okay. There are other incursions in other that I just mentioned, the cardinals, so that it will give us a guide as to how
all right. Now,
what look like. We are not losing out in the area of housing delivery. We're not also losing out in sports development. We're making exploits both on the continent and in other spheres of the field of sporting. For women development, I've already stated on social welfare, youth development, environment and sanitation, water provision. These are the direction, including tourism. So this is the direction of His Excellency Sir Siminala Ikoba's government going forward.
All right.
Thank you.
And all of these are captured in the budget that will be discussed on Monday.
Yes.
All right, interesting. Now, this will be the first budget of the administration of Governor Fubara, and it's interesting to see some of the things that you have noted. But then I want us to stick with quite a few: economic industrialization, agriculture, youth development, and there is another one you mentioned. When I remember, I'll bring it up. But let's start with. Can you hear me?
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Canada.
Oh my, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Hello, I can't hear you anymore, Canada.
All right, I have to call you back then. Terrible network. I will get back to my guest right now, and I was going to ask him about youth development. I was going to ask him about what's it called now? The economic industrialization that he was talking about. I was also going to ask him about agriculture. What is the government going to do? I mean, it's one thing to budget for these things. It's one thing to have a blueprint for these things, but it's another, to implement them. So what is the government going to do in terms of implementing these wonderful ideas that the government has penned down? And also to talk about the monies for MSMEs. Are they going to make it happen? Because a lot of people are asking question, what's with that one? So just give me a few minutes or a few seconds. I'm trying to reconnect. You know how terrible network can be in Nigeria sometimes. However, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Hard Facts with Kala Dakuru Batabo 92.3 Nigeria Info. Yeah. But can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you clearly now.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome back, Honorable Commissioner. I was just asking you. I said let's stick with industrialization, agriculture, and youth development. And I was going to ask for industrialization. How do you intend to make areas like Transamadi full with investors like it used to be in the early 90s? How do you intend to bring investors? I mean, it's one thing to have a plan, a blueprint, a budget, but how do you want to actualize this now? That's the first question I want to ask you.
Now, once we address issues of power and security, I'm sure that every investor will custom. If you know those who are into this, who are running the SPN program, you know that the greatest challenge has been power and insecurity. And it cuts across the entire country. It's not as if River State is worse off.
So how do you plan to tackle power then?
I have said that amongst the bills that we sent to the assembly, there's the River State electricity bill. There's a River State electricity bill. That bill is intended to generate power. And when you have investors who will run power, sell power at reasonable rates, controlled by government, then you are then able to make an inroad.
All right. We have a quick commercial break. Please, I would love it if you can stay on the line. When we come back, we'll look at security, we'll look at youth development, because someone sent a text message earlier asking about the MSME fund that was promised by the governor. So we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about agriculture, how we plan to implement all of that. Please do stay on the line.
Okay.
All right, it's the bottom of the hour. Guess you're listening to Hard Facts on 92.3 Nigeria Info. I have my guest, who is the Commissioner for Information, Rivers State. I'm talking about Joe Johnson, and we are looking at the budget 2024. You know, what are the plans of Rivers State? You can also send in your questions so we can ask the Commissioner while he's with us here on the show. But before we continue, having the conversation, I'd like to take us back to Monday when the Governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, mentioned that his administration will not go below the standard already set. Let's take a listen.
We know that Rivers State is noted for project. No matter what the situation is, we're not going to lower the standard that we have come to meet.
All right, so the standard will not be lowered, and that's why we're looking at the future already. And once again, welcome, Joe Johnson. It's good to have you on the show.
Good evening.
All right, so before we went for that break, we were talking about, power supply and how we can, improve investment and industrialization in Rivers State. And you were making, once again, reference to the bill that will enable us get power in Rivers State. But I want us to move a little bit further now, and let's look at agriculture. I know you said you were going to give fertilizers, you were going to ask local government chairmen to ensure that they do the needful to also push local farmers, into agri and extensive agricultural activities. You also did say that the government will focus on cash crops, but Rivers people would want to know what schemes, what beyond the rhetorics, beyond the promises, how do we really get this implemented?
Well, I'm sure that you're in the information highway.
Okay.
You are aware that His Excellency, about a few weeks ago, was at the Sunrise Farm.
Yeah.
And if you know what that farm is, I'm sure that what we have, they did the largest of the farms around this region. Perhaps the one in Enugu or Ebonyi, they just be trailing behind. And if you witness that visit and some of the things that are put in place, you will agree that His Excellency is trying to set the roadmap towards increasing our food basket. So, and with that and probably the reactivation of the School to Land project, because I said to you before that we shall, we shall attempt to encourage the return of government-owned agricultural land. Now we shall release state-owned. There are lands that are owned by government, agricultural lands. So if that is done to serious investors, you can be rest assured that we shall experience commercial and mechanized kind of agricultural farming.
All right. Okay, so now let's get to the youth empowerment sector. Someone asked me earlier, what has happened to the MSME fund that the governor promised? Is it 4 billion naira? Someone also asked me, what about the employment process that started from the previous administration? The employment of 10,000 Rivers people. What's going on with that one? And also, there are talks about free internet in parts of Port Harcourt. What information can you give us about that as well?
We're doing a test on the free internet system. That system is intended to bring to fore everything and all the activities of government so that you can have a scorecard to rate this government. You can also see the performances of the various MDAs so that you will, at some point over a period, say what we have done and what we have not done, and then be in a better position to critique the government. That is, as it relates to that, there will be an interactive website that all ministries are expected to upload their activities. That one will be done periodically.
Okay.
Now, you have talked about the MSME. I've told you that there's a huge entrepreneurship Trust Fund bill and the legal framework in what we are going to get the Assembly to give a nod. The democracy operates on a tripodal kind of system, a three-leg kind of thing. The tripod is to have the judiciary, the legislature, and then the executive. So when you generate such an idea, it has to pass through those bureaucratic settings, which are part of the tenets of democracy.
Okay.
And then that concept already has a helmsman. There is already a director general. I think that's the nomenclature, the director general or the chairman of that process. And is in the person of Pastor Jonah Toby. Is a respected son of the state. So he will administer in liaison with other agencies that will be able to make the process smooth.
Okay. It's good you've mentioned other arms of government. We'll get to that. But before I do, I want to ask, so now that the budget will be discussed, on Monday, the question is, how much is the government budgeting for 2024? Can you give us a figure?
What will be discussed on Monday are the parameters for 2024 budget. It is not the budget that you're going to discuss.
Okay.
We're going
All right.
to get tutorial on how the 2024 budget is styled. As things continue to happen, there will be evolution. There are changes in the way things are done in the past. If you look at the national outlook, you will discover that there are ministries that are new now, blue chip ministry, this one ministry, and that other. And so quite a lot of also things that will happen at the state may circulate down from the center. So we are going to listen to experts who will talk to us on the way to go, particularly with the turn in our economy.
Okay. So to that question I asked, we don't have a figure yet for the budget. Is that what we're saying?
No figure yet.
Okay. Can you touch on debt, because we've had several reports about debt that Rivers State is owing. Can you touch on that? Are we owing? Do we have any debt? And if we do, how much? All right then. Okay. So
I cannot definitely say it because I cannot. I don't have the figures so that I don't even mislead us.
All right then. So let's get to the issue of the other arms of government. So we still remember the activities that happened in the state some 3 weeks ago, where or a portion of the State House of Assembly was gutted by fire. Now, if we have the budget ready, would it be able to be passed, or transmitted to the legislative arm of government, given the situation of things? Secondly, is there a good working relationship between the legislative arm and the executive arm, yet again, going back to the political drama that happened some 3 weeks ago?
Life is in phases, and like everything that has blood, people are bound to disagree. But the ability to come back as a family is key.
Okay.
And you have used the word if, and I don't like to do if clause. If is generally probability, and I'm a mere mortal. I will restrict myself within the boundary of what I know, and I can assure you that as we progress, when we get to that bridge, there will be a way to cross it.
Okay, so let's eradicate the if now, and let's get to the working relationship. What can you tell Rivers people about the working relationship of the legislative and executive arm of government in Rivers State?
Just about an hour ago, His Excellency Siminala Ifubara and his predecessor were at a commissioning ceremony at Ikoku, where the Hyper City shopping mall was commissioned.
Okay.
And if they were together, it tells you that there's a cordial relationship.
All right then, cordial relationship you've called it. But let's listen to some of Rivers people. Some messages have poured in. If you do not mind, permit me to read them. This one says, please ask your guests which of the speaker will receive the budget, since we now have, I mean, I've said this, Christians will learn from Igboiche, we don't have two speakers. But then again, that's your question. I guess the commissioner has heard you and he will reply. But you said, who will receive the budget since we now have two factional speakers, Christian Williams? This one says, Honorable Commissioner, what is the plan of government for rural communities like in your Kana district, in Kana, LGA? No life in that area, no electricity since 2015 till date. What do you mean by no life? What do you mean by no life? I'm wondering what you mean by that. But this one is from Hector. It says, please ask the Honorable Commissioner, what is the governor doing about the Songhai farm and the syringe industry? Because after the visit, we haven't heard anything from the government, from Hector. I think he has answered on the Songhai farm, the syringe factory. But let's get to you, Honorable Commissioner. This one is from Queen from Ada Judge. It says, what about the 10,000 employment? Yes, so what about the 10,000 employment, syringe factory, and then rural communities? What are your plans for the rural communities?
I think they are cutting the T's and dotting the I's as it relates to that employment.
Okay.
I have not received any contrary instruction as to the 10,000, the employment.
Employment of 10,000. Yeah.
So I think that it's a work in progress here.
Then, someone is asking about, industrialization, syringe factory, the one close to my studio. So what is the plan of the River State government towards that project?
If you listened very well, when I spoke, I said we are going to revise and bring to bear all viable projects that will not only bring money to River State government, but will also create employment. So the syringe factory is not left out.
All right. Okay. Let's get to other questions now. Let's see. Do I have other ones? So it says, in as far as the Honorable Commissioner is in the studio and for the interest of River State economy, you said the IPES CT at Ikoko was commissioned today. Whether the project is government project or private investment project. Chris, okay, that's not our conversation, but thank you nonetheless. Okay, so someone is asking, what about Omagua? You talked about opening up River State. Is it Omagwa's airport? Yes, no, like, about that. I think it's just I'm going to still request to the Honorable Commissioner. Yes, in the deal portion about simulators. What is the addition within port controls? I mean, for an aspect with one. You talked about also for structural development as a means in what master started. He's talking about roads. I need mention of a person saying what was the consequence for constructing roads. Okay. So, if I recall, there are various ministries will put what they're planning on the website. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that. All right. Okay.
You can get the proper feedback.
Honorable Commissioner for Information, someone is asking, and the person wants to be informed as to what is happening with the newly constructed market at Mile 1. He said it's been locked for a long time, and it's coming from Escobar, and he wants to know.
There's a legal pendency. I'm aware. I hear that there's a legal pendency. There's a matter in court over, the allocation.
Oh, okay.
That is just the reason what to say.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So let's take some calls. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. I do have the Commissioner for Information with me on the show, and we are looking at the economic blueprint for 2024. And by the way, they have said that there will be a conversation as to how and what the budget should look like in 2024. So, I probably will be there. You probably should be there as well. So we can all rub minds and see how to take River State forward. All right. Keep those calls coming in.
You can listen in. Okay, where's the radio?
Commissioner, I've got a question for you.
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Would the budget be made available? People. When I told someone I was going to talk about the budget, someone said, "Would it be made available for people to see and do research on?"
Will the budget be made available?
Yeah, like a copy
If
for.
you are to my permission, who could be?
But I'm not in your position. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I'm going to dodge your question, but I hope you can answer me. If Rivers people, because some say once upon a time in our history we couldn't have access to the budget. Even though I do know after a while the Rivers State government website contained the budget as the year went by, but people are asking, would the budget be published for public viewing?
Why are you putting me in a bind?
All right then.
I'm your professional colleague.
I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you plead the fifth. Let's get to Precious. Precious is calling from HA. Precious, welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, Precious, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you.
Yeah. Honorable Commissioner, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Yeah, I want to ask, for us, non-indigenous, because most of us, we have stayed in River State for more than 2 decades. So what are the plans that this present governor have for us, for person like us?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Precious, for calling in all the way from HA. I've got Eze Ken from Ubumini. Eze Ken, let's get to hear you now, please.
Good evening, sir.
Those of us who are non-indigenous did what?
I'll get to you, Commissioner. Let's listen to Eze Ken. I'll tell you the question in a bit, please.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Canada.
Yes, good afternoon, Eze Ken. Welcome.
Honorable Commissioner, greetings to you.
I salute you, my brother. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Based on your analysis in your budget, what are your plans or strategies as regards to the rural areas? How will they have the impact of the budget for 2024? Because in some of the rural areas, especially my community here, Ubumini, there is a school building being moribund for more than 10 years.
Okay.
And Ubumini is a community that is sharing boundary with Imo State. High local government, Aura to be precise. That road is a accessible road for the business of the community.
So what's your question? Quickly, we don't have time.
So how are you preparing to make sure that all the rural areas in the state will have impact and be beneficiary to what will happen by next year?
All right, thank you very much, Eze Ken. So to the first question, Honorable Commissioner, the first question has got to do with, he talked about non-indigenes and how the budget will capture them. He said they have been in the state, for some of them have been in the state for over 2 decades. So how would the budget capture them?
Well, the budget that I know is not discriminatory.
Okay.
It does not know man or woman. It knows number. Budgets work according to what do they say, demography. Government budgets work according to demography. The demography has fought the youth, it has fought the women, and in the youth, there's no way you can say Yoruba youth, stand out, Opobo youth, stand this side, Opobo youth, stand the other side. Once they say youth, it's a cross strata. It's everybody all encompassing. So I don't know what we mean by non-indigenous and indigenous. But if the non-indigenous is the understanding that I have about them as it relates to what we have like the 24th local government. When we have 23, we take the non-indigenous as another local government and another as another local government, then there is some viability in what we will do that will impact on the non-indigenous. But everybody should be assured that the budget will capture virtually all.
Even the rural communities, because remember the last caller talked about the rural communities.
We have said that we're opening up new towns.
Okay.
Those new towns are not going to come from the blues. There will be already existing towns. There will also be modern cities that will be able to compete favorably with those who probably existed before now. I don't know if I make a point.
Yeah, you do make a point. Someone is asking something about the health. Trust me, Commissioner, so many messages, but we're out of time. Someone is asking about the Mother and Child Hospital. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
We have 60 seconds. Unfortunately, I would have to say my goodbye right now. I was going to ask you about the Mother and Child Hospital. A lot of messages here, a lot of phone calls still coming in, but we don't have enough time. Maybe we should yet again have another conversation in the nearest future to talk some more about the issues in River State.
Mother and Child.
Yeah, someone was asking, but we don't have time to talk about it, so I would have to say my goodbye.
Maybe in our subsequent discussions, I'll be able to give you.
All right.
It's even good that we're going to discuss it after now because I do not also have the details, but I think it's got to do with partnership.
All right.
The experts that will run that
facility. All right, the experts that will run the facility. All right, thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner Joe Johnson, Commissioner for Information, River State. It's good and it's a pleasure having you on the show.
All right.
All right. Do have a wonderful day. And for you listening to Stay Tuned, we have other interesting conversations. But first, we'll have to go for a commercial break. Remember, the open season will come your way after the 6 p.m. news bulletin. Thank you.